Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert, the Fantasy Football Counselor. In this video, I'm going to reveal the number one pick at wide receiver going into 2020 fantasy football. Yes, who do you pick at number one? Who is the number one fantasy football wide receiver going into 2020 fantasy football? Let's get to it. Welcome to the show, everybody, guys. I am excited today because we are talking about the number one wide receiver going into 2020 fantasy football. I'm going to tell you guys who that is. Before I get into that, make sure you guys smash the thumbs up. It genuinely means a lot to me. So before we continue this video, let's take a moment of silence and pause for you guys to please smash that thumbs up. That's all I ask of you. And I promise you guys, I will deliver at 100x levels this year. And I assure you that if you're following this channel, you will not only win your leagues, you will dominate your leagues. I've got the winning formula. Now, fantasy football is not a science, but I will get you as close as I possibly can to that championship and winning it and actually dominating than anyone else can, right? So there's a threshold, right? There's only so many you can get right. I always do my best, and I always beat the Concheapsis. That's all you got to do. You just have to have that competitive edge over the mainstream, and you will dominate. And I'm the guy that gets you as close as possible to accuracy, okay? So smash the thumbs up. All right, let's talk about that wide receiver. Who is it? Why is it this person? Let's get into it. First of all, I do this for the running backs, and there's a criteria on what makes a running back, first pick, right? Well, it happens to be, go back and check that video, but the first overall pick happens to be a running back. Go watch that one, okay? There should be a link here below for that. But what makes a good wide receiver, a first overall wide receiver for fantasy? I look at a lot of variables. The first thing I look at is the quarterback. Who's throwing the ball to the person? Because that is really going to predicate the success of that wide receiver. So who's the quarterback throwing? Number two, targets. Are they going to get a lot of them? That's a big question. I know it seems like common sense, but a lot of people put a wide receiver on there because they had such a good year the year before, which is a good reason because they had a pretty good year, so they must have had a lot of volume. But that isn't always the case. There's always swings. You got to look at history. You got to look at the whole situation, right? So quarterback, targets, and obviously talent. Those are three big variables. So who is the wide receiver one going to 2020 fantasy football? A lot of people will tell you it is Michael Thomas. I'm not going to tell you that because not only am I straying away from the Concheapsis, I look at history. I'm going to tell you, first of all, why it's not Michael Thomas, okay? It's not Michael Thomas because 3 out of the 4 years, he has not finished number one. He's only finished number one out of the 4 years. Sorry, let me stand corrected. He's finished number one out of the 4 years, okay? Going back to 2018, he had 147 targets. The year before that, 149 targets. This past year, he had a pinnacle year of 185 targets and 149 receptions. Listen, this was a pinnacle year for Michael Thomas. I do not see him replicating these numbers going into next year. Also, I want to make a note of this. Prior years, he always finishes around 5th and 6th. He doesn't finish first. And the probability of any player finishing first 2 years in a row is very low, okay? So the person I've got first right now is Davante Adams. I'm going to tell you guys why. Davante Adams had 169 targets, 1,386 yards, and 13 touchdowns back in 2018. That dropped significantly from 169 targets to 127 targets, only 83 receptions compared to the 111 the year before, and 5 touchdowns compared to the 13 the year before. So what happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. They focused more on the run game, a new coach came in, and Davante Adams was hurt. Bottom line, Davante Adams is the primary target for Aaron Rodgers. I think that whole team had a little bit of an off year. Yes, I think they made the playoffs, whatever. That was an okay thing. They made the playoffs, big deal, but they didn't get very far, right? And a big part of that is that I didn't think they go into the run, to the wide receivers enough this year. They need to throw it more, and they need to throw it to Davante Adams a lot more for them to succeed. They ran the ball, had a pinnacle year for Aaron Jones, but again, look for Aaron Jones to drop and Davante Adams to come up if Davante Adams stays healthy. So this is a key factor for me. Why is he number one? Well, I like the upside, I like the talent, and I love the quarterback throwing to him. And I think that injury hindered him from being a top guy again this past year. So I think a lot of people will sleep on him. So if I can get, I'm hoping Davante Adams slips to the second round, because if I can get myself an ace running back and I can get Davante Adams in round 2, I can still probably get like 2 other solid running backs in round 3 and 4, and now I've got a solid squad. Now, typically I'm going robust RB. I'm going 3 running backs the first 3 rounds, but I'm going to have to see how the mock drafts fall into place this year, and then I may consider getting Davante Adams if he falls to the 2nd round. We're going to have to see if that happens, but definitely a bounce back season coming up for him, and that is why I've got him at the number 1 position. And again, no way but up for him, no way but down for Michael Thomas, and you have to adjust accordingly when you are looking at these players, because what goes up must come down, what goes down must come up, and there's variances, and you have to look and accommodate for that. So knowing, based on history and the experience, that Michael Thomas will not finish number 1 again, because he's only done it once, and it was a pinnacle year, and what goes up must come down, and this and that, I would not invest a first wide receiver pick. Like, I would not rank him number 1 amongst wide receivers. I would look at someone else like a Davante Adams, who I believe is going to have an upward swing here and a higher ceiling. That's it. One more point here. Another very, very important point why I like Davante Adams is that Aaron Rodgers, we talked about that I like the quarterback. This guy throws anywhere around 550 to around 600 attempts per year. So again, that volume is going to be there. He threw over 600 attempts back in 2016. He's going to continue to throw and air the ball out. So look for him to continue to do that, and look for Davante Adams to be a huge beneficiary in that. Back in 2018, Aaron Rodgers was 5th in attempts. Back in 2019, he was 9th in attempts. So he's always typically in the top 10 when it comes to airing the ball out, and that's what I love. All right, guys. Davante Adams, my first overall pick at wide receiver. And again, it's early. This was taped back in early March, right? So things may change. We're going to have to see how things pan out. If they draft an ace receiver, could that affect them? Sure, it could, because the Packers could very well draft an ace wide receiver that could dip into Adams' target count. Very possible. So keep your eye out on that. And, you know, I'm going to be doing these videos yet again after the draft, after things solidify and we have a better, clearer picture of what's going on. All right, guys, smash a thumbs up, leave your questions below, and I will see you guys in the next video.